Let's start this off with what I think is a pretty underrated matchup between the 6th seed Blue Jays and the AL Central winning Twins. When I look at this matchup, I see some great pitching. For the Blue Jays, they'll be led by Cy Young candidate Kevin Gausman, along with Jose Barrios and Chris Bassett. For the Twins, Pablo Lopez has proven to be a great pickup for them, along with Sonny Gray, who also had a phenomenal season, and most likely Joe Ryan for Game 3. When I look at the offenses, I see more stars for the Blue Jays with Vlad Jr., Bichette, Springer, and Chapman, but they have struggled with runners in scoring position at times. For the Twins, their offense got red hot in September, ranking 1st overall in WRC+. As for the bullpens, the Twins ranked 10th overall in relief pitching Fangraph WAR in September with power arms, while the Blue Jays bullpen has been up and down this year. In this series, I'm going to go with the historically playoff underachieving Twins because of that starting pitching, along with their hot offense and bullpen, while the Blue Jays have simply been too inconsistent this year. I have the Twins winning this in 3 games. On the other side of the American League wildcard, we have the 4-seed Rays and the 5-seed Rangers, which could be an explosive matchup. When I look at these teams, the first thing that jumps out to me are the offenses. The Rangers have slugged all year, ranking 4th in WRC+, while the Rays have also been great with the bats, ranking 2nd in WRC+, and 6th in the final month without Wander Franco. When it comes to the starting pitching, the Rangers will lean on trade deadline pickup Jordan Montgomery, who's been solid for them, along with Nathan Eovaldi, who has struggled a lot lately, and Dane Dunning. For the Rays, they'll turn to Tyler Glasnow, who's been great after coming back from Tommy John and an oblique injury, along with Zach Eflin, who's been a solid signing, and trade deadline pickup Aaron Savali. In this series, I'm going with the Rays due to having an edge in starting pitching, while also being able to match the Rangers in offense, while the Rangers bullpen has been too up and down. Shifting over to the National League, and with the matchup between the Central Division champion Brewers and 6th seed Diamondbacks, all I see is pitching. With Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta, the Brewers ranked 5th overall in Fangraph WAR in the second half of the season, while Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly had great seasons for the Diamondbacks. However, it was just announced that Brandon Woodruff will be out of the first round with a shoulder injury and possibly the entire postseason. When it comes to the offenses, I do love the bats Arizona have with Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, and Christian Walker, but they've been very up and down this year. The Brewers, on the other hand, have struggled offensively at times, but they rank 8th in WRC+ with runners in scoring position. For the bullpens, I give the Brewers the edge here due to some good arms like Devin Williams, Joel Payamps, Trevor McGill, Hobie Milner, and Abner Uribe, while the D-backs have not had consistent success with their bullpen this year. In the end, despite not having Woodruff, I think the Brewers combo of Burns and Peralta will be too much for the Diamondbacks offense and will be able to get the runs across the board when it matters most. Wrapping up the wildcard round, we have a fun divisional matchup between the defending NL champion Phillies and the 5-seed Marlins, who are making their first postseason appearance since 2003 if you're not counting the 2020 season. In this matchup, we'll see some great pitching on both sides. Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Ranger Suarez for the Phillies, while the Marlins have some good arms of their own in Jesus Luzardo, Braxton Garrett, and Edward Cabrera. When it comes to the offense, the Phillies have done well this year, ranking 10th in WRC+, but they've been cold as of late, while the Marlins were hot down the stretch. As for the bullpens, while I like the stuff the Marlins possess, I will give the edge to the Phillies as they've posted better numbers overall this year, including down the stretch. When it comes to this series, I think starting pitching matchups will be huge. Wheeler and Luzardo have held their own against the opposing teams this season, with Luzardo going 2-0 against the Phillies this year, and Wheeler coming up with 2 no decisions. On the other hand, Nola has struggled against the Marlins this season, but Suarez has pitched well against them. In the end, with the Marlins playing the Phillies well this year, going 7-6 in the season series, I'm going to go with chaos and have the Marlins upset the Phillies. Moving on to the divisional rounds, and in the American League, we have the Twins and the AL West champion Astros, and I think this could be closer than what people think. Right off the bat, both teams have great starting pitching, with the Twins led by earlier mentioned Pablo Lopez, Sonny Gray, and Joe Ryan, while the Astros counter with Framber Valdez, Justin Verlander, and Christian Javier. While the Twins' offense has come alive in the second half, the Astros have also come alive, ranking 2nd overall in WRC+ after the All-Star break. I do like what the Twins bullpen has done this year, which ranks better than the Astros, but the back end of the Astros bullpen is nasty and has produced a better ERA in the second half. Overall, while the Twins have had some success against the Astros this season, I still think Houston and their experience will find a way past the Twins and will be able to match the Twins' hot offense. On to the other AL division round matchup, we have the division rival Rays and the Orioles, who had the best record in the American League. As I mentioned earlier, the Rays have had a great offense this year, even without Wander Franco. While the Orioles don't rank as well offensively, they still have some solid bats with Rutschman, Henderson, and Santander, and ranked 12th overall in WRC Plus in the second half. When it comes to the pitching, both the Rays and Orioles have had great bullpens this year. The Orioles did suffer a blow losing Felix Bautista, but they have been able to hold it down without him. As for their starting pitching, I think it's being underrated, as Bradish has posted a solid 2.34 ERA in the second half. Grayson Rodriguez has been phenomenal after being called back up from the minors, and John Means has looked good since coming back from Tommy John. The Rays, on the other hand, will have to use Glasnow in the wild card round, which I think will come back to bite them in this series. In the end, the Orioles, who have played the Rays well this year, will find a way to move on to the championship series. On to the National League, and in the wild card round, I had the Marlins upsetting the Phillies, but this time they go up against another division rival, the team with the best record in Major League Baseball, the Atlanta Braves. The Braves have simply been awesome this year, having the best offense all season. But one thing to worry about in this series for the Braves is they don't have Charlie Morton, so they have to lean heavily on Spencer Strider and Max Fried. With the Marlins burning through their pitching in the wild card round, though, I think the Braves will be okay, as Strider has been excellent against the Marlins this year, and Fried has looked great since coming off the IL in August. As for the bullpens, both struggled in September, but Atlanta posted the better ERA in the last 2 weeks, while Miami struck out more batters. In the end, I think with Atlanta's offense combined with the Marlins losing a start from Luzardo will be the difference maker, and I think the Braves win this in 4 games. Last but not least, we have the Brewers and the Dodgers, both polar opposite teams. On one side, we have the pitching-heavy Brewers against the offense-heavy Dodgers. While the Brewers have pitched well in the second half, this will be a tough matchup. They go up against the third-best offense this year with the Dodgers, who've had great seasons from Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, along with solid contributions from JD Martinez, Max Muncy, and James Outman. The Brewers' starting pitching was phenomenal in the second half, and while the bullpen has also been solid, the loss of Woodruff really hurts here, and after using Burns and Peralta in the wild card series, this will set them back a lot. While I don't think this is the best starting pitching in the playoffs, it definitely helps match up against the Brewers without Woodruff and also having to use Burns and Peralta in the wild card round. In the end, I think the loss of Woodruff is a huge blow for the Brewers in this series, and I think the Dodgers will have enough pitching to move on to the NLCS. On to the American League Championship Series, and we have quite the storyline here. The up-and-coming Orioles against the defending champion Astros, who went 3-3 against each other this season. When it comes to starting pitching, the Astros and Orioles match up well, as the Orioles ranked 6th in starting pitching Fangraph WAR in the second half, and while the Astros only ranked 20th in the second half, they got good starts from Valdez, Verlander, and Javier in the last couple of weeks of the season. Offensively, the Astros were red hot in the second half, while Baltimore was solid for the most part, ranking 12th in the second half. As for the bullpens, both teams are pretty even, as the Astros ranked 16th in Fangraph WAR in September, while Baltimore ranked 17th. In the end, I love the Astros starting pitching, but for me, they were too up and down in the second half, while Baltimore looked fantastic. I'm picking the Orioles in 7 games to make it to the World Series for the first time since 1983, 40 years to the date. Over in the National League, we have a rivalry renewed with 2 star-studded teams with great offenses on both sides. This series will come down to the pitching. For the Braves, they'll have Strider, Fried, and Charlie Morton, who will be coming back from a finger injury. The Dodgers will counter with Clayton Kershaw, Bobby Miller, who I think could be a game changer in this series, and some combo of Lynn, Pepio, and Stone. I do give the edge to the Braves in starting pitching, but Morton's long layoff worries me a bit, and Bryce Elder did struggle in the second half. Coming into the season, people raved about the Braves bullpen, but this year they've had injuries, and in the last month they've really struggled, only ranking 29th in Fangraph WAR, while the Dodgers ranked 2nd in the last month and 1st overall on the year. I think this will be an extremely close series, but I think there will be two key differences. I think with Morton missing time due to a finger injury could cause some ineffectiveness when he returns, and Bryce Elder was inconsistent in the second half. Because of this, their starting pitching worries me after Strider and Fried. As for the Dodgers, while I don't love their starting pitching, I think the combo of Kershaw's experience and a possible breakout postseason from Bobby Miller could be enough to match Strider and Fried. Combine that with a really good bullpen for the Dodgers against a struggling Braves bullpen and a lineup that may not be as good as the Braves but is still strong, and I think we could have an upset in the works. In the end, I have the Dodgers shocking the baseball world and making it to the World Series. And here we are, two teams full of talent that both won 100 games this season. I mentioned earlier the Orioles have had some great starting pitching down the stretch, ranking 6th in Fangraph WAR, thanks to some nasty pitching from Bradish. Grayson Rodriguez has had some of the best stuff in Major League Baseball down the stretch, along with guys like John Means, Dean Kramer, and Kyle Gibson for depth. The Dodgers, on the other hand, have veteran Clayton Kershaw, along with young gun Bobby Miller, and a mix of younger pitchers in Ryan Pepio and Gavin Stone. The Dodgers do have an awesome offense, ranking 3rd in WRC Plus this year, but the Orioles are no slouch either, ranking 11th on the season. When it comes to the bullpens, I mentioned the Dodgers have the best bullpen this year, and while the Orioles did suffer a blow losing Batista, they have stepped it up without him. In the end, I think because of the nasty starting pitching, along with a solid offense and a good enough bullpen, the Orioles will go the distance and win their first World Series since 1983. So those are my predictions. Tell me how wrong you think they'll be in the comments down below. If you can, hit the like button on the way out, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.